Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Roman Papaduke. I'm the Executive Director of the George Bush Presidential Library Foundation. On behalf of President and Mrs. Bush, it's my great honor to welcome you to today's celebration of USO. The USO does many fine things for our young men and women in uniform and their families. So the Foundation is greatly honored to be able to host this event recognizing the role of the USO. Before we introduce our panelists, which will include members of the USO and a number of celebrities, I think I'd like to go through the events that will be transpiring this afternoon. First, we'll have a panel presentation, as I just mentioned. After the panel presentation, we will have a question and answer session. So the audience will have the opportunity to address questions to our panelists. If you'd like to ask a question of our panelists, please use the microphones that are already pre-positioned in the middle aisles of the auditorium. Following the question and answer session, we will have a special feature, the Lieutenant Dan Band, right, for the Common Good, a movie which features the role of the USO. And following that presentation, we will have a reception in the lobby to which all of you will be invited. Many of you may not know the special role that the Bush family has in the history of the USO. President Bush's father had a key role in organizing it. So, ladies and gentlemen, it is a special, great pleasure for the President to host this afternoon. And now I'd like to introduce, ladies and gentlemen, the 41st President of the United States, George Bush.
Thank you all. Please be seated. Thank you all very much. Let me start by thanking everybody who helped arrange this very special celebration of one of the very finest organizations in existence today. I particularly want to single out USO board members, Dave McIntyre. Stand up, Dave. That's it? That's fine. He brought Gary Sinise to us today, and whose company, Tri-West Healthcare, helps so many of our service members in so many ways. My friend Sue Timken is here, she and her husband. She and her husband, he was our ambassador in Germany for many years, and she's a board member at USO, and we're delighted they came. We also have Jonathan and Deborah Flora, and Jay Hoffman. Please step, there they are. They directed and produced LT Dan Band, and we're going to enjoy that later. And so many other good friends of the USO are here. An organization for nearly 70 years has been as good and true friend to our troops and family as you could possibly imagine. Back when I was president, when I had a day job, I used to refer to groups like the USO and people who make it run as what I call points of light, shining examples of what caring citizens can accomplish when they don't wait for government to act, but rather claim one of society's problems as its own and do something about it. Today, well over 1 million U.S. military personnel are supported by the USO in so many different ways. From coordinating celebrity entertainment to having airport lounges and centers where the men and women in uniform can have a touch of home, to sponsoring cross-cultural events that promote goodwill between the troops and the host nation, to offering free internet access in many USO centers to assist in communication with loved ones. It may sound like little things to the rest of the world, but believe me, it's the little things like this that truly lift morale and improve the quality of life for those who bear the hardest burdens of life in freedom. My dad, as Roman mentioned, was Prescott Bush way back in 1942, headed the national fundraising drive for the USO. He took over from John D. Rockefeller, how about that for dropping a name, he traveled the country raising funds for this great organization. Just a year or so later, his son would benefit from his work because as a young Navy pilot, I did go by the USOs. It was a wonderful thing to do, and I had an opportunity to see as a consumer, you might say, enjoy the benefits of USA way back then. And today, as we stand at the dawn of this new and more hopeful century, the men and women of the United States Armed Forces remain the last best hope of mankind to secure a new age of freedom. To assist them in this dangerous work, Friends of Freedom everywhere take comfort from the USO that it will be there right behind them every step of the way. It's been said that patriotism is not the frenzied outburst of emotion, but the quiet, steady dedication of a lifetime. We proudly salute the patriots of the USO for their enduring commitment to freedom, pledge our continuing support and friendship, and most importantly, offer our heartfelt gratitude for your inspiring service. And now it's my distinct pleasure to introduce our panelists who will lead our conversations about the USO. First, where's Gary? Film and TV star Gary Sinise. Thanks for coming. Singer Mayra Veronica. Mayra, here she comes. Are you going to sing? Okay. Major General Jeffery Hammond, U.S. Army Chief of Staff of the U.S. Forces Command. Jeffrey. Thank you, General. And Sloan Gibson, the 22nd President and CEO of the USO. You're on your own, guys.
I think I'm first on deck here. Thank you, Mr. President. It's a treat to be here, especially the chance to see Gary and Mayra. You know, for many of you, that's what you think of when you think of the USO, when you hear that name. And it's still a very, very important part of what we do. Some 500 performances and events around the world every single year. Troops love our celebrity entertainers, and these are just two of the many hundreds that go out each year to entertain our troops and their families. The President mentioned our centers, nearly 150 now. Some of them are in airports, but there are centers in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in Kuwait, Korea, near the DMZ, in Japan and Europe. They're an important part of what we do. But the USO has changed. Today's USO is not my father's USO. It's changed because the needs of our troops and their families have changed. Think about it. 10 years ago, we didn't have men and women serving in small forward operating bases in Afghanistan and Iraq, serving in harm's way. That's probably a really important call. 10 years ago, we didn't have men and women serving in harm's way in Iraq and Afghanistan in small forward operating bases. So we've developed programs that we're able to reach all the way to the forward operating base. One program called USO To Go, where pallet loads of the stuff that troops most want show up right there at the forward operating base. And we haven't quit innovating there. As the situation in Afghanistan changes, we're now working on a much smaller, very specially designed care package just for what we call the trigger pullers, the men and women that are serving in the smallest combat outpost in Afghanistan where they have virtually nothing else. We're also working on a man-portable internet cafe and communication station. 25 pounds it can strap on the back, and even a platoon-sized element will be able to reach home and let their families know that they're okay. 10 years ago, we didn't have families going through that cycle of deployments that you all know about today. That's hard on families. So we try to find ways for families to stay connected with their deployed loved ones. We installed a private telephone network in our centers in Afghanistan, Iraq, and Kuwait last year, and now troops are making 200,000 free phone calls home every single month. We have a program called United Through Reading. We partner with another nonprofit of that name. Troops can go into a USO center, be video recorded reading a children's book to their children. I see some heads going this way out in the audience that have heard about it. video recorded reading a book, and then we send the DVD and the brand new book home to the family. And we get the